What's up, guys? JP here with Leprechaun Fantasy Workshop. About to do some painting. As you guys can see on the table or desk, painting surface, whatever you want to call it. We've got quite a bit of things to do today that I'm hoping to get through. I want to be only around 2 hours today, but we'll see what we can do. Just give you a few looks. So I'll tell you where I got everything and what kind I printed out at. So I got this face, the fallen statue head, and the temple, and then all the Egyptian scattered terrain. They're really great. I got all of that from Mini Hoarder, and I do have it linked in the description of where I got it. I will try to add actual links though later on. So I got all of this. I did pay. It is a sale of buying STLs. I think it was like $5 or $6, maybe $12 for a whole set. The Egyptian thing was all one big set, and there's actually more of files. These things all snap together. You can see the link points. It all like links together, and so there's actually dungeon tiles that have Egyptian carvings in it. If you look at the temple, really cool. It has actual like Egyptian hieroglyphs and carvings into it. Very, very cool set. I just wanted the temple. Currently, I do have in my collection a massive pyramid, so it might be something I play with further on of actually printing out Egyptian tiles and doing an interior of the pyramid. Currently, I have each floor. It's a giant open space. So that'll be something I'll look at. So that is from Mini Hoarder, everything on this side. This is a giant, not only a giant, but a giant statue from Printable Scenery. Very well done. I know you can't really see so much detail when it's all black like this. As I mentioned before, everything I paint, I start off in black. Now you're probably like, well, this isn't black. I started painting a couple of these pieces, and then I was just like, no, I'll leave for the stream. I'm busy. I'll do something. And so I started off on that. That's why I'm going to add the second statue to see how far we can get into that. I don't know if we'll finish it, but I hope to finish I will finish all the Egyptian stuff tonight. So, let's get started on that. A couple things I wanted to throw out, though, that I've mentioned in other streams. First off, if I printed something that wasn't black, if I used a different filament, green, or something else, white, gray, if it was on sale, that kind of stuff, it's a big enough sale, I'll buy it. I use this Rust-Oleum. You can get it, I think it was at Home Depot. It's not a plug for them. I think it's Home Depot. And there's other manufacturers of primer / paint that I've used before. This one I found to be the least streakiest, easiest to go on, and less problemsome. And I think it's like $2 or $3 a can. And you can get a lot of stuff primed with this. I always get flat black. There you go, flat black. You have different colors and paints. You have satin, you have gloss, and you have flat. Flat is the least shiniest. It is flat. There's no sheen to it at all. Satin is a bit shiny, and then gloss is pow. It's almost like it's got a clear coat on it. So I always do flat black, and then but I do not paint. If I printed in black filament, I don't prime or anything like that. I just keep it as it is. It's fine to paint onto PLA. And I do print in PLA, not ABS or any other stuff. And then another thing I mentioned in one of the other streams is about foam brushes. Like I said, I use these when I'm doing tiles to speed paint tiles. I don't actually use the brush. I rip the head off and use it as like a foam. I got this at Dollar Tree. For $1, you get a pack of, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 brushes. There's 5 in there, right? Yeah. Math's hard. So there is now, in at least the Dollar Trees, there is actually a crafting section. They've got canvases, they've got little wooden trays, which, fun fact, a lot of my players, that's where they went to go get, they made their own dice trays. So if you're in the idea of that, if you, I would recommend painting those. They're $1. If you try and stain them, one, it's not the best wood. Sorry, I'm a woodworker. And you can see the glue everywhere. So if you stain it, you'll have those splotchy marks. But if you paint them, your painting ability is the limit. So that's a thing for Dollar Tree, and not plugged, but just ideas. So let's get into it. I'm gonna get some of the stuff out of the way here first, because I don't want everything on the table. And I already have these colored to the first color I need to use, which is a raw sienna. And we're going to start on the temple real quick. And again, this is, I don't want to, like, I'm not going to rush myself here, but at the same time, I try to be a speed painter. I'm not looking to win a contest or take my good old time. I want to build my 3D printers are always going. If you look beyond my big, fat, stupid head, I'm printing another giant thing from Printable Scenery, the Shadowfey Shrine, I believe it is, from the Shadowfey line. And it's going to be about this big by this big, and it has a statue. And I'm going to put resin in it. And that might be something we look at doing, of a resin pour. I don't know. Resin's really scary to use. Scary, and then I mean that it gets everywhere. So, alright, well, let's get into it. I don't want to have this snap together because I want to be able to, paint from each piece so I know I get coverage in. So that's the first thing. I never put my tiles together in paint. I did that one time, and still to this day I know what tiles they are. So let's get a hardy brush. Alright. And since we're using a lot of paint, let's use our big paint tray here. Now, something I do when I paint, guys, and again, everybody has their own thing. Some people like to throw on Netflix and have it in the background. Some people like to, I don't know, watch. I mean, I watch Critical Role a lot when I'm doing it. One of the things I often do is I listen to Audible audiobooks. It's a great way. If I'm painting stuff and I want to prep and I'm just not thinking, I will, where did I put my raw sienna? Here you are. I'm sorry, yellow ochre, not raw sienna. So I'll listen to Audible. They actually have, there's a bunch of, you got Dragonlance books, you've got Wheel of Time, you've got, name your fantasy. Obviously, Silmarillion, the Tolkien, all the stuff from Tolkien. And it kind of gets you in the mood of what you're doing. So with the desert stuff, and I have painted desert stuff quite a bit in the past. I go for a particular look, and so to give you an idea, here is, sandstone, what it looks like. Sandstone, limestone. It's got a yellow look to it, and so I use the yellow ochre, and then I like to hit it with. I actually have not done this before, but when I did the pyramid. I don't even remember the paint combination, but what I did is I want to try camel. That's literally the paint colors. It's from Folk Art. It is called camel. And then after that, we'll look at maybe doing like a parchment or a linen, which is like a whiter color, and do a very light dry brushing of that. Because sandstone, although I'm not saying this is Egyptian in my games, it would be in the realm of that. So sandstone, that kind of thing, it would be out in the middle of the desert, something like that. It would be in the sun. You have anything in the sand in the realm of a sand, a desert. Fun fact: deserts are not all sand. Winter tundra, Antarctica. Fun fact is a desert. It's a frozen desert. That's for you, my science teacher back in, I don't know, 5th grade. So you have dust storms, wind storms, sandstorms. When that blows, imagine having something sandblasted. That is literally what's happening. So it tears through you, the sun beating down on it. That can really affect and weather the look. So like what I love about this model, if you look at, I mean, you can see the sheen on it because of the filament, but it's pitted everywhere. That is not because my printer's alignment or something was off. That is literally how it prints. You can see the floor is a glossy, perfect smooth. So yeah, let's get into it. I don't want to be, again, not putting on heavy coats. You can saw the other stuff. It's really streaky. I'm not trying to make anything very solid color here. And unlike some model makers too, for the most part, I don't do second coats. Just kind of think of it as like a Bob Ross technique. I hit it once, and then I just layer paint on top of it and layer paint on top of it. The black, to me, is a feature, not something I want to totally cover up. Sorry, I'm not in the camera. By the way, if you're watching, the comments, if I'm doing something stupid, let me know. I am watching the comment thing. If there's something you want me to talk about, let me know. I don't. Here for you guys. And again, I know there was a lot of stuff on the table and you're wondering, well, JP, that's a lot of stuff. Like, there's no way. There is a way. Like, if you guys get the technique down, you wouldn't believe how much stuff, if you're completely undistracted. Now, if you're, working at your job, work from home or something, and you're trying to paint stuff, nah. Like, there's no way. But if you are just dedicatedly sitting there and trying to paint stuff, you will be able to knock out a ton of stuff just completely undistracted. Now, mind you, this is not going to be the only color here. So we are just putting in the first coat. There will probably be at least one, if not two more dry brushings on top of this. For something like this, sandstone, I could, for the hieroglyphs, go in and with a detail brush and try and make it a, accurate to the period. I don't know about doing the white so much, or the parchment on top, and here's why. Like, I probably will apply a little bit of it, but the reason why I don't want to put too much in is because that would represent what it looked like when it was first built. And why I say that is because the Egyptians, you would peel this stone, they would smooth it out and then put a lime or whatever coating over it, and then paint on top of it. Kind of like what the medieval knights did, in their castles. You'd put a rendering over it, and then you'd be able to paint on top of it. They had a carving into it too. Well, over time, that rendering wears away. That's why you see a bunch of debris in these temples. So there you go. There's the first. You can still see the glyphs carved in. I like the glyphs being a little bit black. I want to be able to, again, player sightlines. I want the players to see it. If it looked like carved in stone, I don't want them to pick up the whole model. Ooh, is that a... It's weird. So one thing I do try to do, I don't want to, it's kind of like sanding wood. I'm trying to go with the grain, not against the grain. I'm not just, doing a circle or a spin and like that. There's a move to this, and I'm following the filament print lines, essentially. You don't always have to do it. You won't always be able to do it. But in this case, I'm going to try and do it. Now in the corners, obviously, I'm going up and down just to nail the corner, but everything else, I want it to be, the same flow to the paint. And so, also, cool thing about this model, all the Egyptian models I've got, not all of them, the pyramid that you guys won't be able to see today, that I found on Thingiverse. Type in pyramid on Thingiverse. Seriously. Want a big model to print? Oh, it's awesome. I love that thing. It's one of my happiest models. And I didn't even know, I was just doing what I always do, trolling through Thingiverse. What do I want to print? What can I use in a D&D game? I look for everything and anything. And boom, pyramid shows up. And then pyramid ruins. And I'm like, I want that. And I was actually talking to one of my players while I was looking on Thingiverse. And I'm like, I just found a pyramid. I have to go. And just started printing it that day. That took a while to print, though. I mean, that's a whole dungeon, truly. I mean, it's, I think, 5 or 6 stories tall. But very cool print. And so when I was story behind this is I'm a member of a number of printing groups on Facebook, that kind of thing. Not so much to share my work or anything like that. It's just to kind of get a idea what people are doing. Somebody might find a cool file that I like, stuff like that. And so it's a way that I can stay in touch. If I do offer advice all the time for people who have Creality Ender 3s, which printers I have, or are having trouble with their photons, that kind of stuff. I think it's this, I think it's that, because I've rebuilt both of my printers 8 million trillion billion times. Every part on it's probably been taken apart or put back on or modified or changed, something like that. I don't give them a rest all too often. And they still work wonderfully. So there you go. Again, it's wet, but you can see the engraving in there. It's, again, light coats. I'm not slathering the brush up. It's just light. If I needed to, you can't see it, but I keep, you get these for like $3 or $4. They're from Walmart. The line is Mainstays. Go to like the bathroom or towel section, and you'll see a huge bundle of these. It's like 10 or 15, call them washcloths, call them rags, whatever. And I go through packs of them. I mean, don't get me wrong, a pack will last me a year, and by the time I'm done with one of them, they'll stand on their own because they've got so much paint on them. For those of you who have a dirty mind or thinking something, shame on you. But, yeah, it's a great product, great way to keep your brushes clean, also dry brushing, that kind of stuff. So, sorry, I started talking about, I got excited about my pyramid. So, I was on Facebook, perusing. I recently went to a wedding, so it's like, I'll look at the pictures, see how dumb I look. And in my feed, there was a model maker who, if you want to grab my attention real fast, post something that either reminds me of Skyrim or reminds me of Lord of the Rings or something like that. And this guy posted a desert type city build that he had done that I truly, it was out of this world. I have a desert city, or village I should say, that I 3D printed and painted, and I was like, I looked at it and I was just like, that's something I could add, as a bigger part. So like the city I have could be the slums, and then this is And I also was looking at his paint style, look at other painters, look at their work. You can learn a lot just from seeing their work. The color that he used, it was stuff like that. My colors tend to be in the same format, and it's because I've found whatever I'm using works for me in that scenario. But if I see somebody else has used a color scheme that really works to me and pops out to me, I'll use it. I'm not copying their art. I want a realistic look. That's how I go about things. So if I see something that I think that's a good way of doing it, I'll go with that. Like Jeremy of Black Magic Crowd, I think it's Jeremy. He did a thing on painting wood to make it look weathered and old, and he had gone out to his fence or something like that, taking a look at the fence to try and get a read for the color. We've done that already with the sandstone. That's how I get my color schemes for certain things. So it's a way of going about it. As some of you have seen in my feeds, I don't generally do the gray look on woodworking, on if I had a gallows or something like that. I don't generally do that gray look. I know it's technically accurate, but I like wood look to wood. That's one of those weird places where I'm like, I like what you do, but I like my way better, kind of thing. I have done some of the old wood. I did some old dead trees, a hangman tree I do, and that kind of look. But again, I don't. For my cities and stuff, if I paint everything in the old gray look, then that gives it it's been neglected, it's out there. If I do it in a rustic wood look, maybe it's been there 6 months, maybe the gallows was just erected, maybe it doesn't give it the this is an ancient neglected kind of thing. But also I like the look of the other one better. Just personal preference, really. All right. And I don't think we're putting this together right. So to give you that look at that engraving, there it is. You can see it from a distance. There it is. It's not hidden. It's not cut out or cut off or got a little bit too much on the brush there, but that's all right. Sorry, I keep on painting back, and I need to not. Let's try it. Move this a little more. That better? Alright, so again, I got distracted. I'm easily distracted. So anyways, I built the pyramid. Then I was looking on Facebook, pictures of me, stupid. And then in my feed, the guy had a desert town that came up, very cool. And then I just clicked on his Facebook page because a lot of the creators on this page, they have, you know, posted their own work of what they've done, 3D printing, and this guy's a designer. Now, this is what I want to do, is I want to get into designing my own models. And what he's been doing is he has a number of them, 4 or 5 of them, and he's been making like Nordic burrows, burial burrows. And if you played Skyrim, you know what I'm talking about. It's like a dug-in burial chamber. Or if you're from Ohio, like I am, Cleveland Browns, sorry. We have, you know, a lot of Native American burial mounds. Now, I don't know if those would technically qualify as burrows, but in the, like, I believe the Viking type, the Nordic traditions, they have like burrows that are like, you know, carven into stone or mountains or like that. It's a very distinct look, very Skyrim look, and it's great work. And so he got me interested, and I just followed the link. He had shown where he had a page on Mini Hoarder, and it was a bunch of STL files, and I went there and checked out his work. I did purchase something from him that I don't have ready to. I have it printed, but I wasn't ready to paint it today. It's like without playing with licensing and stuff, it may or may not look like the entrance to the Mines of Moria in Khazad-dûm from The Lord of the Rings. But it's very accurate and very cool looking. And I have built a dungeon tile set for building Erebor and also the Mines of Moria. So I thought I could incorporate that as the entrance and then build a dungeon around it. So, and it's pretty big. It would cover this whole table. It took, for 2 sections, it took about a day and a half each, if not more. So, I mean, it's pretty massive. Very well detailed. The only thing is it's not like modular like that. It is always going to be this long hallway with stairs. So anyways, while I was on his site, I have never found Mini Hoarder before. Again, not a paid advertisement. This is just where I found models. So I just, hey, let me check this out. This looks cool. And I found a Egyptian, I think they called it like the Pharaoh's Temple and Scatter Terrain. And I mean, they have a number of sets. I just wasn't really interested in tile sets. Since I have a number of tile sets from Fat Dragon Games and printable scenery and that kind of thing, having a specific Egyptian tile set at this time I'm not saying it didn't appeal to me, but I mean, it was extremely cost effective, but I didn't think I needed it this time. In my game, I have plans for my pyramid, I have plans for this temple, but I didn't want to have a full-blown, you know, Prince of Egypt kind of thing going on in my game. And so with the temple set, though, there were a number of Pharaoh tiles and a ton of scatter terrain too. So it was just like, oh, well, cool. I'll do a bunch of that, and I can dress up the outside of the pyramid. I can dress up the outside of, I'll dress up the outside of my temple, you know, that kind of thing. Again, just working my way over all the, you know, area, slightly coating. For like these areas that are carved, I hit those when I've got less paint on the brush. When I'm getting low, because I want, again, the black to show through. I want some detail, and that's one way to get some detail work Again, everything's not a solid color in nature. So, yeah, I think that'll do. I don't know if I want to paint the bottom. Got paint, why not? Waste not, want not. Otherwise it just dry in the pan. Alright, let's give it a quick look over to make sure I didn't miss any spots. You wouldn't believe how many times I do that. It is like every single time. And if I am, like seriously, in chat, just send a message, you know, straight up Blues Clues it. A clue, you missed a spot, stupid. Alright, so there's the temple. I know the top's not going to stay on, but it's kind of squishing because, yeah. Alright, and then that is really all for the raw sienna. Or, sorry, I keep on calling it raw sienna. I'm so sorry. Yellow ochre. So I don't really need that. Toss that in the paint box. Let's hit it with our camel color. About 30 minutes in and already got the base coat on the temple. Since I pre-painted everything else, cheating a little bit, but actually I don't want to do that. That's still very, very, very wet. Take a lesson from me too, in that normally I don't build stuff like that, like actually kind of putting it together. You don't want to do that because it will limit the ability of some of the stuff to dry. When I do a ton of tiles, I'll tend to stack them on top of each other. Well, the tiles underneath the stuff that's getting stacked don't have the ability to dry, and so that when you add more layers of color, you're adding wet on top of wet, which will make the colors, rather than having one color layered on top of the colors will mix, and you'll have a different color entirely, which that's not what you want. So sometimes if you're painting something, it's better to, if you know that you're not going to be able to get to that, or you're going to go back to that immediately, paint something else, add something else to your list. So that's, again, another way I speed paint. Is I've got a ton of stuff set up and I just hit it with, oh, this is the color I'm hitting next, let's hit it. So, you know what, that's the color we're looking for, but I don't want to put it on thick. So we're going to use it's just money. So if you can see the difference, you know, you got a yellow, and now you've got like a whitish, and now it's going to dry a little bit of color. And let me try and see here if it's better. Is the paint set? So you can see there's more depth between the colors. Sorry, I think it's glaring because of the paint is still wet technically. Now here's what I'm doing. I'm putting a little bit on the brush, wiping a bit off on the edge, and then wiping a bit more off on my rag, and then I'm lightly stroking. This isn't technically dry brushing, but it is limiting the amount of paint I put on, so it is a very light coat. Alright, so now what we're doing, like I said, we're just lightening this up a little bit. One shade at a time. So we get the desired color overall that we want. That's all you gotta do. It's just a little bit more, and again, each color shows through if you do it the right way. And it adds more depth, more detail, more of a story, more of a background to your piece. And that's really what painting miniatures models is. You know, if you're painting a car model and you add a little bit of rust on an engine block or something like that, you're telling a story. You know, I mean, it's, you know, an older car, it's got a lot of miles on it, maybe the owner neglected it, maybe it's you know, a Ford, joke on a Ford. All trucks rust in their own little ways. But you know, you're adding more and more detail that tells more of a story. Now I can see under the camera now, you can see the difference between, you know, the yellowish and then the camel color. I love that it's called camel. That's what you kind of think of when you think of the pyramids of Giza, right? You have camels, a camel caravan running in front of it or walking in front of it. I think when I did the pyramid, I did khaki because I didn't have camel at the time. Spent a lot of time at my local craft store staring at the paint aisle. You know, what color can I use this for? What, you know, what kind of shades do they have in this? And I have every shade of gray you can think of. No, that's not a 50 Shades of Grey joke. That's your own prerogative. But, you know, your grays, your browns, your greens, your woodland colors are always, you know, great to have tons of different aspects to. Normally I would paint that ladder brown, but from the detail work of the model, the designer, it looks like they made it so it's actually stone. So, and I think that seems appropriate to me, that these ancient people carving in stone, making something like this would have factored in to put a ladder or a stair kind of like that in there on their own. Again, it's your model, your stuff. It tells a story, the story you want it to tell. You paint it well enough, you don't need to tell it. Your paint will do the talking for you. It's a good slogan, right? Let your painting do the talking for you. Or let your paint tell the story. Maybe I should just talk like slow and whisper. Let your paint talk for you. That's just good right there. Just light, sweet strokes. Sweet. Sweet like the butterfly. As graceful as possible. Well, that's a connecting part, but cool, easy part of fixing a mistake right there. Another reason why I have a rag. You slather a ton on, you can wipe away with acrylic. You got to be careful with that, because if you have multiple layers, you might actually take the paint off other layers, but you can dab it away. And the engraving is still there, still black and strong as ever. Again, it's just, about the light technique, not dabbing in, but a light sweeping motion. Sorry, I know this is probably not the most exciting model, because it's just, the same stuff over and over again. Hey, look, there's a spot I missed. But we'll get into the fun stuff in a second. Again, simple. Just a couple dashes back and forth, and you'll have enough coverage that there's a distinct look to it, but again, you're not slathering on a pound of paint. Again, you can see the black showing through. You can see the yellow ochre. Boom, ochre. In there as well. You can see that, and it gives it that distinct look. So while we let those sit for a while, let's get onto our little detail pieces. Scatter terrain. I think that's all. So again, these are all on my FDM printer. I did all of these little pieces in actually 2 prints on my resin, on my little photons. Now, one thing you can probably see the pitted on the side. Those I did print with supports the first time, or both times actually. I think if I do these again in the future, I will try it without supports. That's the thing with printing in resin is sometimes you're paranoid. Should I not do supports? Should I do supports? And it ends up hurting you because it's sometimes difficult when they are literally flush to the model. It's almost impossible to clean them up. I could go in there with a file, but again, these are statues out in the middle of a desert. And again, it's table view. These are just accent pieces. I mean, they could be integral to the game of mattering, but if you've watched the Brendan Fraser, the Mummy movie, maybe they've got the Book of the Dead buried under the statue of Anubis, that kind of thing. But again, it's with the number of statues, models, that kind of stuff that I have. Although I want quality, I don't need 24 hours to do one little scatter terrain piece that might be on the table for a single session that isn't going to last that much. Now, with the players' miniatures, yeah, I will do a lot. I want to make that a lot of work. But a bunch of the NPCs that are going to be there for one day or like that. I mean, again, I want all my stuff to look good, but it doesn't need to be 1,000 years of work when 20 minutes will do. Fun enough about this one, there's a crack in it. I have no idea why or how that happened. Everything else that printed for on that print that was at that height had no problems. So that's just a weird thing. I don't know if somehow I bumped the printer at one point or something like that and it messed up a layer. Still, even several hundred prints in, resin is one of those things I haven't fully figured out. Want to, it just takes time. Experimenting, that kind of thing. As you can see, the more layers you get into on the work, the less time it takes, because you're doing less painting and more of just a quick swipe here, quick swipe there. And that's another secret to the whole speed painting thing. And yes, my hands are getting covered in paint. That is totally fine. It's acrylic, it will come off in the sink in one wash. Very easy. This one I want to be careful of because I have plans for that bowl. And I don't want to get too much on it. got a little overzealous with the yellow ochre there with him. All right, and I believe, yeah. So for the statues, the ruins, again, I like to have multiple cities, multiple terrains for different areas. Winter, forest, you know, Underdark, that kind of stuff. For this, I obviously am painting this for this, like, Egyptian-like work as scattered terrain. You know, maybe it's a, you know, a mystical, you know, lost civilization that was once, you know, all-powerful, and, you know, we don't really understand, or the ventures don't understand where it came from or how it's there now. Kind of like our Egyptian, you know, I mean, no one will physically come out and say, well, the pyramids were built by this. I'm of the opinion ramps and sleds, just so you know. But I don't think archaeologists have nailed down and come out and officially finally said, yep, that was it. The debate is over. So, looking for the camel. There he is. The sentence I didn't think I was going to say today. Where did I put my camel? Have you seen it, officer? It's got one hump, not two. No, not two. One hump. You're saying it has two? Maybe it's pregnant. Sorry, that was a dumb joke. I'm a painter, not a joker. This one's more difficult just because there's so many inner layers there that I'm trying to get into. Because you got to remember too, you know, the sand has to get in there too to make the color change and that kind of stuff. So solid. All right. Let's flip this over so we can get a fresher side. That way we don't transfer. By the way, what I was talking about with the painting, you can see on there, barnwood is the color, the gray to do the wood look. Just found this folk art. I found this a couple days ago, and so Alright, so we're going to now look at doing what I think will be the final coat. Nope. Parchment is not out. It's now out because I just dropped it. I'm not going after it. So I'm going to do a linen collar. And that will finish off all these pieces, for the most part. I'm going very light on this, just kind of just hitting the high spots, hitting the corners. So I'm looking to hit like these edges here, the raised points, so the darker color remains inside. You can get it just by, you give it a quick dab over the sides. Like, again, you're going off the angles. It gives it a dimension. All right. Again, I'm not really trying so much to paint the whole thing this color. I'm hitting the edges big time. Afterwards, just doing a little bit of a light dusting over the sides. Alright, the last big part with our sculpture in there. Like I said, it gives it like that render that was in there before. Now another thing I can do is just do the inside of that render to hold that look. Paint the inside different than I would the outside, because maybe the tomb was sealed and it did stay intact for the most part. For this temple, there's no door. It actually remains open. So I didn't do that just because sand probably blew in there. Again, telling the story. So we're about an hour in and we're almost done with the Egyptian stuff. So maybe we will get through all of it. I hope. Always the goal. I like hitting my goals. And what we're about to get into is going to show you guys one of the things I do. I don't just do it just for terrain. That's how I paint miniatures. That's how I transition from one set to the other if I'm painting a bunch of stuff at once. You noticed I have not touched the stuff from Printable Scenery. That it's because none of the colors I'm using right now I wanted to use on this model. Or on that model, I should say. But I have something that they share in common with some other models in the very near future. Alrighty. So there we go. We have, I don't know how well this wants to stay together, but you can see the temple. Has a kind of a sandstone look to it, and that's it for him. I could always go through and do a clear like satin on it, but or maybe even a flat, but I tend not to. Let's leave the giant disembodied head for last on this, and there's a reason for that. Actually, you know what? Thinking about that, no. Let's do that one first, simply because when I hit this next, I want it to have dried. So I'm going to go a little bit more liberal with the paint on this one. Because I want to be able to use this model in other, you know, Statue of Anubis and obelisks and that kind of stuff. Sure, you can use it for other stuff too, but it kind of fits a certain narrative. I like the idea of being able to use this statue for both. So I'm going to be a little bit more liberal with the paint here. So it could fit into both. Now the other statue, that I'm purposely going to do like a white marble. Not bad at all. Trying to hold on to this really light. Just give it a very light strokes, because again, I want, it gives it that definition when the other layers show through. There's stuff I missed all over it, like that is where I want to miss a spot. The interlacings and their armor, the spots behind the sword, that kind of stuff, that's perfect to miss, because sand is not going to be able to hit those spots as well, that kind of thing. And and so the weathering, it would be uneven. It would have different color. It would, think about it this way: if you bought a, any old car, let's say a El Camino, because it just popped in my head. Couldn't decide between a truck or a car. So El Camino. Let's say you had an El Camino, you parked in your garage, and every single morning for like half the day, you didn't park in your garage, you parked on, by your garage, and the sun, it was shaded for the most part of the day, but the hood would get the sunlight for the most part. You would have a two-tone car after a while, because the sun would eventually just wear out the hood area. So that's, I don't want to be in depth. I don't want to slather on a ton, like I said. And that's the real trick. You give objects more realistic believability when you lightly hit them. So there you go. You can see there's carvings in there. You can see the cracks in the top. Not gonna lie, I'm pretty proud of myself right now. The judgment on how much paint I needed has been almost spot on most of the night. Normally I have either I have to refill like 6 times, and yes, I have refilled a couple times, but I'm filling the pot up to the top when I'm, So it's not that I knew I would need more, but for the other stuff, it's been pretty spot on. It looks like we'll just have enough to finish these other two pieces. All right. Now we're going to do that bowl really quick. So again, color selection, telling a story. Not really a prominent object. So
I'm sorry.
If it was like, something I could see in a king's chamber or something like that, might be gold, but I don't see this as being in a king's chamber like that. It looks like it'd be outside. It's got cracks in it, that kind of thing. So I think this would be like at a shrine or something like that where people pay homage. So bronze seems like the perfect color for it. I picked bronze just because I used to play Age of the Empires all the time when I was a little kid. And I used to be Egyptian often. And the Bronze Age. So I think the Egyptians actually were in the Bronze Age. Don't quote me on that. Although I'm pretty buff on history, I'm not very good about my ancient Egyptian history. I can name a couple pharaohs, and that's, that's about it. Everybody knows about King Tut, Ramses II, Khufu, and then you've got Anak, who is the father of King Tut, who tried to make the entire Egyptian culture a monotheistic religion, meaning one god. That did not go over well. They tried to erase him from the history books after he died. Interesting little fella. Alright, so I think we can call the Egyptian scatter terrain a solid done. Again, we're an hour and 15 minutes in, so will we get all the way through? I don't know. It does take a bit of time to put on color in the first, as I said, but we're going to do our damnedest. So we're going to work on these two simultaneously. The reason why I kept this out and the reason why I didn't care about the edges is because obviously I'm going to hit that with a color that I'm going to hit this one with. And so why worry about the edges? That's, again, why you paint from lower layers up, is because I can get overage on other things and then be careful and cover up versus, and if I get brown on top of like the statue, that just is dirt climbing up on it. It got dirty on the bottom where it was buried. When it hit or something like that, that's how it got there. Again, telling a story. Now, if you get marble on top of dirt, that's weirder. Like, that doesn't, unless somebody pulverized it and made dust and sprinkled it everywhere. So, I'm going to leave this one for a sec. Because, again, same thing with this. I want to have the statue painted, and then I'll do the ground around it. So for this, like I said, I want to do a marble. So I got to decide which of these I want to do, and then I'd probably do a dry brushing of white. I don't know which one's darker. They're actually almost... They're nearly identical, but let's do this one first and then do a pale over. What I was talking about getting overage, just did it. So let's get rid of this rag. You can see in the beard it's coming in, it was coming in like yellowish brown. Here's again another thing about buying solid like 3D prints, good STL files. If you buy stuff from a model maker manufacturer who is a true computer artist, you know, like, I mean, Printable Scenery is an excellent example. The amount of detail work that they put to their models, a lot of the paint work is taken out of it because the detail work is there. If you understand the techniques of dry brushing and you know, washes and that kind of stuff, it takes half of the hard work out of you, because you don't have to make it all that believable. It's their models are so well done that it just, the detail just shows through when you add a little bit of paint on it. Again, that being said, models like Thingiverse, you know, that you get off Thingiverse for free, still excellent choices. You know, like, again, I mean, there's a ton of stuff in my collection that I've picked up that were from Thingiverse. It's, but I do pay for a lot of my STL files as well. Sometimes I intermax them. I mix them. I have different terrain, OpenForge, Fat Dragon Games, Dragon Lock, all that kind of stuff, and I intermix them depending on what I'm looking for and what they have and what they put out. Now I am painting over some details that will not be this color, but using like a white, something like that, I know I can go over it again. What's really great about doing like a statue like this is I don't have to worry about like the cloak, you know, oh, the cloak's got to be red and I've got to have shades in there and all. It's carved out of stone. It's going to be the same color, all of it. They didn't, you know. Although that's not totally true. The Romans, if you've ever seen the famous statue of Julius Caesar that they dug up, it was, it's a solid, I think it's made out of marble. And, you know, it's pure white, you know, white as driven snow. And scientists, though, have like looked at it. It used to be fully painted, like fully a colored sculpture. And that's the thing, though. Over time, the paint, you know, the pigments are natural. Wears away. They didn't have, you know, Thompson water seal and all that kind of stuff. This is not a paid endorsement for Thompson water seal. But if Thompson Water Seal wants to sponsor me, I'm your spokesman. Now, if you can see, there's some areas that I'm trying to avoid. There's roots growing all over the statue, which will add a ton of detail. I'm trying not to get them as much as... there's also some bushes and vine and moss growing on it. Trying to avoid it, but it's kind of... That's one thing if you're speed painting. What you can do is you can use your bristles to actually slide in, kind of like a player sliding into home plate or first base, and where their foot would hit the base. You can use your bristles to kind of do that, to kind of stop you from going too much into it. But that's a bit of time. And as I've already said, we're not here about time right now. Here to be quick. So this one black spot you can see, that's actually moss. Got all excited about my paint usage, and I'm already gonna have to refill here. So this one, I am doing a second coat because I want less of the black to show up now. Now, one thing about my model too, I print at 0.03 layer height, so it makes I can see the filament lines pretty well. Probably can't notice them on camera from this distance. Again, table view. Players don't really notice that. There is several techniques I can use to get rid of them totally and make it perfectly smooth and all that stuff. I don't care. Again, I want my models to be printed quick, and the more time they're on the printer, the more time something bad can happen. And so I don't see the need for it, but I think that might be solid enough. And then we'll switch over to the other one and let this dry a bit. Give his big old noggin another once over. Alrighty. Pretty solid, alright? Can't be unhappy with that. So looking at this, I want to make sure. Want to make sure I got the armor overlap on the shoulder. Alright. Now for this one, it looks like it's in bedrock. Like I got dirt here and then rock. This one appears to be actual like quarry rock. Go to my standard dark gray. I know it's boring. I do it for dungeon tiles too, but sometimes boring is just as good as, you know, the materials match in the plane and the world that you're in. That makes sense. I've got a lot of people who tell me, you know, a lot of your stuff looks like it. Yeah, it's from the same quarry. It's from the same world. It's from the same realm. You know, people are not importing, you know, jade rock and that kind of stuff. This is where I want to be careful because, like I said, the statue doesn't make sense if the statue's got a ton of you know, gray paint on it. All I'm doing is just working my way around. I'm working my way. Just hitting the rock. It doesn't have to be, again, perfect. There's going to be a dry brushing over it. That'll make the detail pop. This is just the first coat. Just trying to be really careful, though, about transfer and not getting the actual statue head at all. So whenever you're trying to do more detail work, you do tend to slow down a little bit on that. Brush control, experience, practice, that kind of stuff. That's where you'll get more, you know, more speed, but we had a saying in the army, slow is smooth, smooth is fast. You know, sometimes it is still going just as fast if I'm, you know, carefully taking my time, getting the right spots, getting them in there. because if I miss and I have to go through and then paint 3 layers, so I have to put the black on, then I'm just made a whole lot more ton of work for myself. It's always good to take a look again after you've gone through another pass and try and look at different angles of what you did before. Good, I missed that spot. I don't know if you can see it. I should be able to. It's black right there. I wasn't looking at that angle. I was looking downward rather than, horizontally. All right. Now back over to the Headless Horseman over here. I'm going to paint these rocks around him, same color. As you can see, the black spots that keep on appearing around these rocks, those are bushes that are standing out. Or as they would say in Monty Python, shrubberies. So I like to try and keep them as unmolested as possible with the gray, just because, again, with the black, it will show through better. Now, I'm not going to go through and paint them black again if I get them a little bit. Same thing with the vines. But they're a great spot to get detail. Normally, sometimes what I would do is I'd go through with a number of grays and paint all the rocks different grays. I'm not going to do it with this one. Not because I'm streaming it, like that. I already decided. But, the shrubberies, I will go through in 4 or 5 different green tones and hit them variously in different colors to give it a different look. And then I have some army painter shrubs, like actual stick-on shrubs, and I'll probably add a couple of those to both of these to give it more of a... It's another thing you can do. You can get actual like pre-made gravel, and Army Painter does it. You can go to Train Model Hobby Shop, that kind of stuff, and it's just, you know, stick them on. I tend to super glue mine. Even the stickiness to me is not quite enough for if I was stacking it on top of something else or another model or something like that, it could get knocked off. So I put a little dab of super glue down before I put it on. Again, I'm looking at different angles, seeing if I miss spots, which I do. I actually missed a spot. It looks like on the... It's like literally underneath, so it's not really seeable, but I'll know. So I want to get it. All right. Since this one's drying up a little bit, I'm gonna hit a couple of those spots where the marble was still showing through. This is still drying up though, but I don't think it's ready for the lighter gray yet. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna keep with our other statue, and I can work on the other areas. Let's add some real color. Just gonna do a real, let's literally call it real brown. Hit it with some real brown. That's enough. I'll be doing the vines in a different color. Now you might be looking and seeing, I don't know if you can see the detail work, but there's like actual little stones and stuff. I will get that shortly. I don't want to have that in brown, but it's one of those things where, again, I'm gonna paint in layers, and unfortunately that's a top layer, so that's good for our browns. I know we're kind of getting like a yin and yang kind of thing, you know, dark gray on this side and brown on this side. as you start fading, it's like getting a haircut, like a high and tight. So you start fading it in, it's not going to look all that weird. And that comes with adding more and more colors on top of it. So, I think I'm going to give the other one still a little bit more time. We're going to do one more coat on the statue because I want to keep moving. Again, I've downsized brushes here. I am using the same brush I did for the brown. I'm just doing a lighter gray. It's just a tinge lighter. It's a little bit more bright. Marble is kind of a mix of, 2 or 3 grays and maybe a light white, that kind of thing. I am still going kind of heavy with this color because it's more of a coverage thing, and marble generally, like I said, has 2 or 3 big pale gray whitish colors, and then I'll hit it with the high tone white. Again, I'm moving it around. I'm letting the light play off so I can see, the high spots that I've missed, where it's still wet, that kind of thing. It's good always to have a light on your work. So I got a light gray now. I'm going to hit those rocks again. Now this is where I will be dry brushing, or a sense of dry brushing. I think we're nearing completion on that one. I do want to add some ferns and stuff to it. So again, with the brushing, I'm just hitting the high spots. Wipe most of the paint off the brush, and it's just like I was doing the edges of the temple. I'm just getting the high points of the rocks. It will give the rocks a varied degree of different colors. It almost gives it more than 2 colors. There is one very wet spot there that I don't want to hit yet. But let's see about lightening up our. Oh my God! Special. I'm going to put this right next to the other brown just so you can see the difference in color. So one was called real brown, the other one's called brown. You can see the difference. It's a several shades lighter. And so when I dry brush that on, it will give it more depth. We're getting somewhere. We are getting somewhere. So I do want to go through, since we've got those layers done, I do want to go through and get those rocks that I mentioned earlier. So I get a light brush. They're all relatively close together. If I just lightly touch them, they will pop into existence. Now I am loading the brush up pretty heavily when I do this. I'm not wiping it off, just because I need to cover the light brown that I just put on and the dark brown, all that kind of stuff. And it's more of a dabbing, like a little tap, 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 tap motion, rather than a brushing. Alright. Now we're going to hit the brown again with another lighter color. It's one of my favorites, as you guys know, Territorial Beige. I'll put it right next to the brown so you guys can see. I know it's in the light. You can see the lightness of it. We're just lightening things up more and more in a broad stroke of it. I imagine when the green gets in there, it will pop. Alright, now I'm just adding a little bit of white. Try and finish off the marble as much as we can before we start doing the vines and the bushes and that kind of thing. I'm gonna grab a whole new brush because it's starting to. That one wants to still have a little bit of the brown. Be careful where you put your fingers. If you guys didn't just notice, my thumb has got a bunch of brown still on it, and I just put it right in the middle of the statue and globbed it in there. I was able to wipe it away though, but always want to be careful. Now, something I might do actually for both these statues even, is I might add a clear coat to the statues alone. Keep the rest of the terrain as it is, which would give it more of a polished look. Or maybe even just a satin. It would make it shine more from a looking at it from the table. Ooh, save that. But I tend to wait before I do anything with clears. I tend to let them dry a bit more. see if turning this light off. That gives you a better look of how things are going. So we are 3 minutes from the 2-hour mark, and so far we're actually really not doing too bad. I think I will stick with it, and we'll knock the rest of this out. It shouldn't take much longer. But give me 1 minute, guys. Maybe not 1 minute, it might be 2. I'm going to grab some stuff to finish off this guy with, and then we were going to knock out the vines and the bushes. And that might call it a day. So give me 1 sec, because I'm going to grab some of the bushes I had talked about, the shrubs, and I can show you how I do that. Alright guys, sorry for that delay. I did want to grab this. It was only probably a minute. So some of the things I was talking about, now I'm not going to use this, but this is Army Painter. The Army Painter is the brand. Again, not affiliated or like that. I got this at the Michael Game Shop. $5 for this big old tub of this is for snow, battlefield snow. I do want to make sure I keep this very, very much far away from this model. So that you can put down, like I just use simple glue, but I'm sure you can use like spray adhesives. They might even have special products for it. I don't know. What I've done has worked for me. And then if I do put down something like a turf or stone or something like that, I will spray it with a non-oil based shellac to seal it and hold it. I did a number of skeletons on pikes, and I had a bunch of stone and that kind of stuff on there. I do not want stones and stuff every time I touch it to fall apart. Kind of like your macaroni paintings when you were a kid, and all the macaroni falls off the construction paper by the time you get it home. That kind of thing. So these are the tufts I was talking about. They come in different colors. These are frozen turf. These are lowland shrubs. I love these things. $7 was this pack. I got this at my local game shop. The other ones I ordered on Amazon, and they were on sale. These things are pretty simple, pretty easy, pretty cool. Again, not affiliated with this, with them in any way, shape, or form. These are just things I think are cool that I like to tell you guys about. I've learned a lot about different products. So I'm going to show you another trick that I do with them. So you've got your standard CA super glue. You want to know the brand I use? Loctite. Loctite super glue. And then this is my secret weapon. I learned about this when I was in high school. I used to build model rockets for a competition. And yeah, don't get me wrong, I've super glued my fingers together with it. It's extremely dangerous, but it is an amazing tool. So this is what we call accelerator, and it does just that. It's a catalyst. You want to go sciencey on it, and all you do is give it a little spurt of anywhere on CO. So your CI, your super glue, cyanoacrylate glue, and it will immediately, boom, it's solid. You do not want to get it anywhere on your skin. I swear to you, all that is holy, it burns to like 100 and something degrees extremely fast. You're not going to probably get anything, maybe a first degree burn, maybe, but it's not comfortable. you're going to know too, because if you hold it and when you spray it, it might actually spray the super glue onto your hand if you put too much on, and you'll feel it, trust me. So what I do is I just look around for spots that I think that, you know, my bushes, my shrubberies will look good at. I want to put one there. So I just put a little dab of super glue on there. You just pop it off. Some people use tweezers and stuff. I am not one of those. I don't care. So there, I like this stone. It's just sitting there, all pretty. It's just saying, JP, put a shrubbery on me now. We are the stones who say knee, and we want a shrubbery. All right, and then Bob Smith's Industries is the brand. It actually took me a long time. I could not remember when I was a kid what we used. And I hunted around on the internet, typed in accelerator, went to craft stores. I've never found a craft store that had it. I don't go to Hobby Lobby, but Michael's, Joann's, Packatans when that existed. I'm from Ohio. I don't know if that was a local thing around here, maybe. They got bought out by Michael's. I've never seen anybody have Siren Accolade accelerator. There's something you can do with baking soda. I mean, granted, I love duct tape and I love the, multi-purpose of it, but I'm going to use what was designed to do, that kind of thing. So I'm going to add a couple more of these shrubberies just because there is a 360 angle, when players are looking at it. And one thing about these shrubberies to point out, they come in different sizes. Now, if you can tell, all of these are in one row. These are all relatively the same size. Where's the one? So here's one that's completely unopened. You can see at the very top, you got, I don't know if you can see that, 12, 35, and 30. 30 very, very small tufts, 35 medium, and 12 big old schloggers. When I got these, I was actually going to make, I bought a number of packs because I was planning on doing a, like farm fields, of having like little tufts of, whatever, and instead I found a 3D printed file. I do not remember where. It was like some guy's kind of Etsy store kind of thing. And it had the little tufts that were in it, and then he also had ones that didn't have the tufts. And how I painted it, the rows looked like they were tilled and like that, and the tufts looked good enough for. So these are $7 a pack, which is still not that bad to do like little rows of little farm fields. But I 3D printed like 8 of those big farm fields, so I could do a huge sprawling farm if I wanted to. So there we go. I think we can call this guy done. I really like it. It could be woodland. It could be in the mountains. It could be in the deserts. Granted the tufts are not, but who knows? Maybe it's just rained in that part of the desert. Whatever. All right. So we are on to the last model, and again, I know I said probably 2 hours, and here we are, 6 minutes past. But I can't meet all my goals, guys. I'm sorry. I tried my hardest. So, let us get to what I think is actually the fun part. We are going to hit this up with a bunch of greens. So I've got any number of greens here. And we are just going to go into the random tufts, and then we're going to mix it up. So I've got lime green. Give it a little shake. I have Hauser light green. I have forest moss. Seems appropriate, right? Come on. I have aloe. Olive green. And then I have the classic green. Now, all of these colors are from different manufacturers. You've got Craftsmart, Americana, Folk Art. I think it's all the Folk Art. Yeah, Craftsmart. So I've got 2 of each. I don't care if they're all one. I don't care if they're all. I like different variety. Mixing colors is a dangerous game. For this, not so much. But if I was doing dungeon tiles in a special gray or maybe I'll give you an example, a better one that uses green. I did sewer tiles, whole sewer, and I had a number of combinations of grays, greens, browns. If I had mixed the green, or maybe like made a poop brown because it's a sewer after all, and I wanted to build again on my sewer and make more tiles because I do want to make more sewer tiles later. If I don't remember those colors and I can't replicate it, then it's going to look funky. It's going to be, well, this tile doesn't match this tile. So it's good to remember what tile, what color you did. Sometimes what I do, and you guys might notice this on my Instagram, sometimes there's paint bottles next to my paintings of when I take a picture of it and send it to you guys or put it out there for people to see. That's not just because I'm just showing it on the table. It's because that's how I remember what colors I was using. Because I have a giant box of paint bottles. The rack over, you can't see where my arm is, but there's a rack next to my computer. It's just paint bottles. And then behind me on the shelves over there, I have spray paints. Tons of different colors. And I don't remember half the time when I was doing, so I take pictures of what the colors were at that time. I made my sewer tiles. I haven't made a sewer tile in over 1.5 years, probably. I don't remember what colors were. I mean, I could probably match them, but again, it's just easier to take a picture. So you can throw it up on Instagram. Be like, hey, look what I did, Mom. Put it on your fridge. So let's do a new brush because there's no point in. So I'm just going to hit all of these randomly. And this is going to be a lot of dabbing. And I do not mean the kind that teenagers do that I still don't understand. Because I am an old man. Now I'm being very, very, very light with this. Again, remember how I told you I want the black to show through? The black is what makes it look like there is multiple leaves and that kind of thing here. So I'll give you a look. Now imagine that over all of it. I'm going to try and do a couple in the same color everywhere. I don't know why whenever I do the detail work I start to like whisper or get quieter. It's like when you're driving down the street and you're looking for like you're going to a party or some sort of looking for the address and you're finally in a spot where the GPS is telling you to turn a lot. And you turn down your radio or whatever you were listening to because you're almost there. I don't know about you guys. I do that, and it's just one of those things. I know a bunch of other people do it. It's just I'm sure there's probably been a social experiment or somebody looking into that of human behavior of where how did that start or. But in the days before GPS, I used to do that all the time when I was looking for something. I'd have MapQuest directions. There's nothing I was trying to hear. I just didn't... I missed that whole spot back there. See, we got the colors, though, so it's just a quick 1, 2, and 3. Yes, I am still using the green brush. The brown will neutralize nearly all the green, and I wiped most of the green off anyways before I did this. Alright. We'll let that dry for a little bit and keep on going on with our greens. Got our brush a little bit washed off here. Now, this might seem like tedious work, and I'm not going to lie, it kind of is, but at the same time, this is where your model really becomes something on the physical. It's where it's no longer, oh, that's a piece of plastic. It becomes oh, that's a statue of, that has been, and tells a story. That's all we're doing here, is we are adding the elements of the story. I know you're probably saying too, like, why don't you just use one color, hop all around, and then I will. When I do that, I tend to find that I did something stupid, and I've got, like, I painted myself into a corner where now I have to have two bushes next to each other the same color. So I've got a bunch of stuff in one area. I'll come back over there, and if I have something else, and try and change it up. Now, if you just noticed, I hopped over from green, from doing some of the bushes, and I actually hit a few of the more stones in the gray, just very lightly. You can do that. It's not a, I mean, you're just adding. We're at the detail level. This is where it's really fun, but also, like I said, you take your time a little bit more. But this is what makes the model become, like I said, something that tells a story and something that's living on your table versus a piece of plastic. We are rocking and rolling. Let me know if I stick out my tongue while I'm doing this. I don't really pay attention. Alright, I think that pretty much does it for our bushes. I found the one little guy right there. Don't want to leave him out. So, now becomes the part where I grind my teeth and lose my mind, because we are on the last part here, and that is to do the vines. And those are always interesting. If you're wondering, is that a different brown? Yes, it is. I have one more to go. So let's use that brush, and let's use... Again, brush choices are paramount. That's what I'm struggling with right now. I really want to make sure that I've got something I can control. And because this is the pinnacle of detail here. So let's hold on to him for a little bit. Let's try to do the most detail work here first, and then we'll go into see how well we can do. I want you guys to be able to see. Now, the reason why I picked a different brown is because I want it to stand out on the forest floor. Versus the other browns. Difficulty with vines is they're a rounded object, so you don't want to have a brush that's going to completely wrap around and then also get what you've worked so hard not to have detailed. What I do is I get a really, really short brush. I go over the top of it, and then I look at it from another perspective and try to, do the same thing. So it's kind of like mowing the lawn in a couple passes versus trying to get it all in one stroke. But I do bring the brush in a slow moving backwards in a pinstripe. If you've ever watched pinstriping, pull up a YouTube video on pinstriping, watch how they do it. That's kind of the motion I'm trying to do. I'm trying to load the brush up and then slowly move it in, but I'm using a very, very short brush, unlike pinstriping, which is a long one that holds a larger amount of paint. And I'm just pulling it towards me. Sorry, I'm with the detail work. I also need to get my big stupid head in here so I can see. So as you can see, we're moving along at a pretty good clip, actually. But this is the slowest part of the model, but this is the most satisfying. Because if you do it right, this is what stands out. As what everybody will see. Again, I'm using short, very deliberate motions. I try to actually steady my hand on top of the model somewhere, which is a risk if I'm if I have wet paint on my hands, or what I'm touching is still wet. That can cause problems. But again, with acrylics are pretty forgiving. Sorry, I don't know how much of that you're able to see. Ooh, almost lost the brush. So right now I'm just transitioning the vines across the statue. I can worry about the vines on the ground floor. Those I can be less worrisome about. But when you have vines literally over top of, white and gray, that's a little bit harder to cover up a mistake. Sorry guys if you guys can't see this. I'm trying to get it so that you guys can see what I'm doing, but it's also difficult because I really need to see up close. All right, I think I'm relatively happy with that. Few spots to look at. I need a little bit of touch up. Got to make it look right from all the angles. Okay. So that is the danger vines for the most part. So I just need to finish off the vines on the ledge, and I would think we can call this one quits. And again, I really don't, when it's brown versus brown, I can breathe a little easier on these. One more spot I just noticed. Well, two more spots actually. This guy's shown a little thin. And this guy. Always a challenge with vines, especially when you have like something like white that you painted on top of, is that you have to sometimes go over it a couple times to make sure that your brown literally kills the white and is solidly over top of it. Alright, I think that might be the end of it right there. So let's give you guys a close-up of the whole kit and caboodle. So, a great model all around, like I said. Printable scenery. They are awesome. Check out their Kickstarters whenever they pop. Their website has their previous Kickstarters. You can see the stuff that they've had. I've been involved in the last 2 or 3 of them. Or 3 or 4, something. It's been a while. It's been several. They're great. It's a great way to get a ton of models. What's really cool about the Kickstarter is they release after a while, after the Kickstarter's done and everything, is they'll release 3 or 4, no, maybe not 3 or 4, I mean, when it first starts, it's usually like 3 or 4 models. And now that we're winding down, this model came out this week, along with another model that I'm printing over my shoulder right now that's still going for a while, and it's gonna be a while. It's I think a 28-hour print. This printed in 2 sections, and honestly, with the crack in the stones and stuff, it's hard to find the crease. The crease is right there, but it's. I mean, let's see if you can see the crease. It's actually not this. This is not the crease for. It's over here, but it goes well together, and I mean, using the accelerator is not coming apart ever. The plastic will fracture before the super glue will. So, but it has been almost 2 hours and 45 minutes. I am sorry it took 45 extra minutes, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please, again, like, comment, subscribe. If you guys want to see more of this, I'm thinking about doing more D&D or not necessarily D&D, but tabletop, like making cities, like actually designing cities, their economies, how I name figures. So when a player or group discovers a new area, how I have that set up. I thought about doing a couple of those as a live stream, like planning sessions, that kind of stuff. What I do for planning sessions. So let me know if you guys are interested in that in the comments. Again, thank you so much for hanging with us all this time. Sorry it was so long. Again, thank you again for following us. The whole thing with this whole, painting tabletop terrain is that you are creating your own world, the way you want to see it, the way you want to be in it. So, let your paint tell the story. And I'm JP with the Leprechaun Fantasy Workshop. Thank you again. Signing off.